Hello everyone, and welcome to our fascinating journey into the world of reproduction in biology. Today, we are focusing on a key aspect, sexual reproduction in flowering plants, specifically understanding the intricate flower parts. From the protective sepals to the vital carpels, we'll explore how these structures enable life to continue. We'll start with the basics, then gradually dive deeper into advanced concepts, preparing you for all challenges. Let's begin. Ready to discover the secrets hidden within a flower? Let's start with the easy part, understanding the main structures that make a flower beautiful and functional. Imagine a flower bud, tightly closed. The small, green, leaf-like parts you see protecting it are the sepals. They form the outermost layer, guarding the delicate inner parts before the flower blooms. Think of them as the flower's natural shield. Once the flower opens, you notice the vibrant colors and sometimes pleasant scents. These are the petals, the flower's advertisement to the world. Their primary job is to attract pollinators like bees, butterflies, and birds, inviting them to visit and help with reproduction. Without these eye-catching petals, many flowers would struggle to attract their essential partners. Now, let's move to the heart of reproduction. Inside the petals, you'll find the stamens, the male reproductive parts. Each stamen has a slender stalk called a filament, topped by a small, often yellowish structure called an anther. The anther is where tiny pollen grains are produced and stored. These pollen grains contain the male genetic material. Right in the center of the flower is the carpel, the female reproductive part. It has a sticky top called the stigma, designed to catch pollen. Below the stigma is the style, a stalk connecting it to the swollen base, the ovary. Inside the ovary are ovules, which contain the female genetic material. After fertilization, these ovules will develop into seeds. Now that we've explored the basic parts of a flower, it's time to test your understanding. Take a moment to answer these three questions. Think about the role each part plays in the life of a flower. This will help solidify your knowledge before we move on to more detailed concepts. Good luck! Great job with the basics. Now, let's elevate our understanding and delve deeper into the fascinating world of flower parts. We'll explore their specific roles and arrangements in more detail. Flowers aren't just a random collection of parts, they are highly organized structures. We categorize these parts into four main whorls or rings. The outermost whorl is the calyx, made up of sepals, which we know protect the bud. Next is the corolla, formed by the petals, designed to attract pollinators. Inside that is the andrecium, containing all the male stamens. And finally, at the very center, is the gynoecium, which houses the female carpels or pistil. Each whorl plays a distinct, yet interconnected, role in the plant's reproductive strategy. Let's zoom in on the protective and attractive whorls. Sepals, collectively known as the calyx, are typically green and leaf-like. Their main function, as we learned, is to shield the delicate inner flower parts, especially when it's a bud. But did you know sepals can sometimes be brightly colored too, mimicking petals? Next, the petals, forming the corolla, are the flower's main advertisement. Their vibrant colors, unique shapes, and often sweet scents are all carefully evolved features to attract specific pollinators like bees, butterflies, or even birds. They might also have special patterns, called nectar guides, visible only under UV light, to direct pollinators to the nectar rewards. Now for the essential reproductive parts. The stamens, making up the andrecium, are the male organs. Each stamen has a slender filament that supports the anther. The anther is a critical structure, as it's where pollen grains are produced. These tiny grains carry the male genetic material necessary for fertilization. Then, we have the carpel or pistil, forming the gynoecium, the female reproductive center. It consists of the ovary at the base, containing ovules, which hold the female genetic material. From the ovary, a stalk-like style extends upwards, ending in the stigma, a sticky or feathery tip designed to capture pollen. These three parts, stigma, style, and ovary, work in perfect harmony to ensure successful fertilization and the formation of new seeds. You've now gained a more in-depth understanding of flower parts and their functions. It's time to apply this knowledge. Try to answer these 5 questions, which will challenge you to connect structures with their specific roles and arrangements within the flower. Good luck with these medium-level challenges. Excellent work so far. We are now ready to tackle the hard level. This section will challenge you to think more analytically, connecting concepts and exploring deeper biological theories. Let's analyze the floral whorls with greater detail. The calyx and corolla, though often distinct, can show fascinating variations. Sepals can be persistent, remaining on the fruit, or deciduous, falling off after blooming. Their arrangement in the bud, or estivation, is a key characteristic. Similarly, petals can be free or fused, forming tubes, bells, or other shapes, profoundly influencing pollinator interactions. The andrecium, or stamens, also presents diverse arrangements. Stamens can be fused into 1, 2, or many bundles, or vary in length, all adaptations influencing pollen dispersal. Finally, the gynoecium, with its carpels, can be apocarpous, meaning free carpels, or syncarpous, with fused carpels, and the ovary's position, superior or inferior, is a major taxonomic indicator. Flower symmetry is another crucial aspect. Actinomorphic, or radially symmetrical, flowers can be divided into equal halves by multiple planes, like a star. This is often seen in more ancestral flower forms. In contrast, zygomorphic, or bilaterally symmetrical, flowers can only be divided into 2 equal halves by a single plane, much like our own bodies. This specialized symmetry often indicates a highly co-evolved relationship with specific pollinators, guiding them precisely to the reproductive organs. Beyond symmetry, the number of parts in each whorl, known as merosity, is often consistent within plant groups, multiples of 3 for monocots and 4 or 5 for dicots. Furthermore, parts within a whorl can fuse, like petals forming a tube, or even fuse between different whorls, such as stamens attached to petals, further enhancing structural and functional specialization. Understanding flowers also involves connecting to broader biological theories. The modified leaf theory, proposed by Goethe, suggests that all floral organs, sepals, petals, stamens, and carpels, are essentially highly modified leaves. This theory is supported by observations of transitional forms in some primitive flowers, where you can see a gradual shift from a leaf-like structure to a sepal, then a petal, and finally a stamen or carpel. Modern developmental genetics, particularly the ABC model, further validates this. It shows that specific gene combinations determine the identity of each floral whorl, acting on a basic leaf-like primordium. This perspective highlights the evolutionary ingenuity of plants, adapting a fundamental structure like a leaf into specialized reproductive components. These adaptations are directly linked to effective pollination strategies, whether it's the bright petals for insect attraction or the feathery stigmas for wind-borne pollen, demonstrating how structure and function are inextricably linked in the plant world. You've now explored advanced concepts in floral morphology and evolutionary biology. It's time to test your analytical skills and theoretical understanding with these 7 challenging questions. Think critically about the variations, symmetries, and evolutionary connections we've discussed. Good luck! Congratulations on reaching the hardest level. This is where we dive into the most intricate details, competitive insights, and cutting-edge biological engineering. Prepare to explore the frontiers of floral knowledge. Let's begin with a comparative look at floral morphology across different plant groups and delve into their evolutionary history. Basal angiosperms, like magnolias, often show ancestral traits, numerous, spirally arranged parts, and undifferentiated perianth, meaning sepals and petals look similar. Comparing monocots and dicots, we see distinct patterns in floral merosity. Monocots typically have parts in threes, while dicots favor fours or fives. Beyond these broad groups, specific plant families exhibit unique adaptations. For instance, the pea family, Fabaceae, features a highly specialized, bilaterally symmetrical corolla perfectly adapted for bee pollination. The Asteraceae, or sunflower family, demonstrates extreme reduction and aggregation of individual flowers into a composite head, maximizing visual appeal and pollination efficiency. These variations are not arbitrary, they reflect millions of years of coevolution and adaptation to specific ecological niches and pollinators. Now, let's explore the developmental genetics that orchestrate flower formation, specifically the ABC model. This groundbreaking model proposes that the identity of the four floral whorls, sepals, petals, stamens, and carpels is determined by the combinatorial expression of three classes of homeotic genes, A, B, and C. A genes specify sepals in the outermost whorl. A and B genes together specify petals in the second whorl. B and C genes specify stamens in the third, and C genes alone specify carpels in the innermost whorl. There's also an antagonistic relationship between A and C genes, ensuring proper patterning. Beyond ABC, D and E genes are now recognized for their roles in ovule development and overall floral meristem identity. This genetic blueprint, an elegant engineering code, ensures that each flower develops its precise, species-specific architecture. Understanding these genetic controls is crucial for plant breeding and manipulating floral traits. Let's zoom in further to the micromorphology of the reproductive structures, starting with the anther. Typically, an anther contains 4 pollen sacs, also known as microsporangia. The anther wall consists of several layers, including the epidermis, endothecium, middle layers, and a crucial nutritive layer called the tapetum. The tapetum provides essential nutrients to the developing pollen grains. When mature, the anther dehisces, or splits open, usually along a specific line called the stomium, to release the pollen. Now, for the ovule, or megasporangium. It's attached to the placenta by a funicle and is protected by 1 or 2 integuments, which later form the seed coat. Inside, the nucellus provides nourishment, and a small opening, the micropyle, allows the pollen tube to enter. The embryo sac, containing the egg cell and other nuclei, develops within the nucellus. Finally, the pollen grain itself, the male gametophyte, has a highly resistant outer wall called the exine, made of sporopollenin, which protects it and often features intricate patterns unique to each species. This detailed structure ensures the survival and successful delivery of the male gametes. The evolution of floral structures reveals fascinating trends. From primitive flowers with many undifferentiated, spirally arranged parts, advanced flowers show tendencies towards reduction in part number, fusion of parts for structural integrity and pollinator specificity, and specialized symmetry. For instance, zygomorphy, or bilateral symmetry, is a highly advanced trait, often coevolving with specific pollinators like bees or birds, ensuring precise pollen transfer. The position of the ovary, from superior to inferior, also shows an evolutionary trajectory, offering greater protection to the developing seeds. These adaptations are not just biological marvels, they inspire biomimicry in engineering. For example, the self-cleaning, lotus effect on petals has led to hydrophobic coatings, and the aerodynamic design of some seeds influences drone technology. Economically, specialized flower parts yield valuable resources: saffron from stigmas, cloves from buds, and essential oils from petals drive industries, while selective breeding has created the vast diversity of ornamental flowers we cherish, highlighting the profound impact of these structures on both nature and human society. You've delved into the most complex aspects of flower parts and their significance. Now, it's time to challenge your comprehensive understanding with the first 5 questions of our hardest level. These questions require critical thinking, synthesis of information, and a deep grasp of the subject. Take your time, analyze each question carefully, and apply all the advanced knowledge you've gained. This is where your true mastery will shine. Good luck, and push your limits. Let's continue to stretch your understanding with the remaining 5 questions from the hardest level. These questions will further test your ability to connect concepts, analyze complex scenarios, and demonstrate a competitive level insight into the topic. Remember, it's not just about recalling facts, but about applying your knowledge to solve intricate problems and understand the broader implications of floral biology. Keep pushing forward, embrace the challenge, and prove your expertise. You're almost there. And that brings us to the end of our in-depth exploration of sexual reproduction in flowering plants and their fascinating flower parts. We've journeyed from the basics of sepals and petals to the complex genetics and evolutionary insights of the hardest level. We hope this session has not only clarified your understanding but also ignited your curiosity for the wonders of biology. For more such engaging and comprehensive educational content, make sure to visit synapse.omaps.in. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for regular updates and new lessons that will help you excel in your studies. Keep learning, keep exploring, and keep growing. Thank you for joining us today.